Hey guys, this is that one Apple Guy, back at it again with another video. Today we're going to be doing the evolution of the Galaxy A10 series, starting from the Galaxy A10e, all the way up to the Galaxy A15 5G. I'm going to start this video as soon as this update finishes on the Galaxy A13. But while that thing updates, we're going to talk about each model I have here. I do not have the 4G models of the 5G models, and I do not have any or I get the most popular models. So first off, here is the Galaxy A10e. As you can see, fully functional. Do not want Google Photos. Second one here is the Galaxy A11. As you can see, this one is fully functional also. Next up is the Galaxy A12 here. As you can see, this guy is fully functional. Next up is the Galaxy A13 5G, the most popular model. It is updating, but this guy is fully functional. Next, I get the most popular model of the Galaxy A14, the 5G variant. As you can see, perfectly working. And then I get the most popular model of the latest Galaxy A10 series, the Galaxy A15 5G here. As you can see, fully functional also. So these phones are fully functional to its fullest potential. Guys, so I just want to show you, let's just swipe up here on all these. Show you guys they all work and they are all fully functional here. So the first thing we're going to talk about is display. I'm not going to go in depth too much on these bad boys. We're first going to talk about design. So here's the Galaxy A10e. We get a 5.8 inch display, which is 720p, 1500 by 720. It's an IPS LCD panel that does run you at 60 Hz. So it's not going to be too smooth. Just not the greatest display. But it does feel smooth and actually feels pretty premium. With pretty thin bezels actually for the time. An 81.38 screen to body ratio. A cutout on the top here. On the bottom here we do get USB-C, headphone jack, and our speaker. On the right, we just get a power button, and that's about it. Power button and volume. So, there's no fingerprint sensor on this device, so your unlocking methods are either pattern, pin, password, swipe, none, or face unlock. On the back here, we do have a single 12 megapixel, I believe. Let me just... Whoa, no, it's an 8 megapixel back camera, so really, really low quality back camera. Just a plastic back flashlight. Very low quality phone. For design on the Galaxy A11 here, we get this beautiful front display. It doesn't come in the greatest, but it is pretty big at 6.4 inches. So going from a 5.8 to a 6.4. Huge difference. It is a 1560 by 720. And it has 268 ppi. By the way, this guy has 295 pixels per inch. And it's an LCD, and it's 60 Hertz. So another 60 Hertz panel. It's going to be pretty slow. Let me turn off this notification. Bam. So yeah, it's going to be pretty non-smooth. And these bezels are bigger than Texas. They're 80.92% screen to body ratio. Huge bezels. But I do like this. We do have a little hole punch here. I think that, that just looks clean. This phone is super thin. You can bend it, JRig, everything. And we have a USB-C port, a single firing speaker. There's your power, your volume. On the top, we do get a headphone jack, micro SD/SIM card slot. We get 3 cameras opposed to this one, so that's a huge, huge upgrade. Our cameras, we're going to go more in depth about the cameras later, but I'm just telling you megapixels. Our standard camera is a 13 megapixel camera, and looks like that one's in the middle. No optical image stabilization. The second camera is a 5 megapixel ultra wide, and the third is going to be a 2 megapixel depth sensor with a flash. Plastic back build. Glossy plastic, not my favorite. Let's go ahead. There's a fingerprint sensor, so let's go ahead and test that out. Back-mounted fingerprint sensor. Even works when the display's off. 3, 2, 1. Boom, it's very fast, simple, and it works. Really nice to have that fingerprint sensor. The Galaxy A12 did have a lot of advancements in design here. This screen hasn't changed much on the A12. Whoa, my MacBook almost fell. It is a little bit bigger at 6.5 inches, but the phone itself isn't much bigger. It is a little bit bigger, but not by much. It's because they thinned up the bezels on this. So this is a 1600 by 720 display with a 270 ppi. It's an LCD 60 hertz panel. So again, it's going to be 60 hertz, so it's going to be really choppy. You can already see it. You can't really see it on the camera because it's recording at 30 frames, but it's just really choppy. But you're going to be getting an 85.80% aspect ratio. So the bezels aren't really thin, but they are pretty thin compared to these two. And on the bottom here, we get a headphone jack, microphone, USB-C port. By the way, 15 watt charging, 5 watt charging, really bad. 15 watt, single firing speaker. On the right here, we get a fingerprint / power button and our volume. So that's really nice how this is built into the power button. Really good advancement. Really fast and simple. On the left, we get a SIM / micro SD card slot. On the back, we get this nice lined and matte texture design with 4 cameras. That is a lot of cameras for a budget phone. We get a 48 megapixel main camera up from the 13 megapixel. We get a 5 megapixel ultra wide, a 2 megapixel depth sensor, and all new 2 megapixel macro. So that's really nice to have. On the Galaxy A13 5G, we get huge advancements. Not too much to design and screen and stuff, but to the hardware, which we will talk about later. But this guy has a pretty nice screen, to be honest. It's a 6.5 inch 1600 by 720p screen. It's the same screen as this, but this one has 90 hertz refresh rate. So everything's going to be a lot smoother, a lot better in general. If we go into settings here, and I just show you motion smoothness, it's an adaptive 90 hertz too. That is really nice. So you're going to be getting everything's just a little more smooth. Just feels a lot more of a more premium device. It has a 81.06 screen to body ratio, so a little bit thicker bezels than the Galaxy A12, but really, really nice. Fingerprint / power button, volume. Let's try that fingerprint. Really fast, really easy. Same side mounted fingerprint that we see on the A12. On the bottom here, we get a headphone jack, mic, 15 watt charging port, single firing speaker. On the left here, SIM / micro SD card slot. On the back, it's just a simple matte texture, which I appreciate. We are getting a little bit of a downgrade in the cameras, unfortunately. We get a 50 megapixel main camera, so that is an upgrade. But we get a 2 megapixel macro, 2 megapixel depth sensor. We get rid of the ultra wide. I don't like that, Samsung. Galaxy A14, we've made major advancements to the display on this device. It is way better. It's a 6.6 inch display, so it's a little bit bigger too. I personally like smaller phones, but if you like bigger phones, it's up to you. But it is 2400 by 1080. So we're getting a 1080p 90 hertz screen. Just to show you guys that it's 90 hertz, let's go into here. Let's go into display. And it is that adaptive 90 hertz. So everything's just going to be more smooth, as you can see. And it's just really, really nice for some reason. Really nice. I'm just going to show you that again. Really, really smooth, as you can see. Just awesome screen. So the screen is now flat also, which is really nice. Fingerprint / power button here, which I don't know why is like crooked. Volume. So let's try that fingerprint. That's weird that it's crooked. Might have to open the phone up and kind of mess with that a little bit. Is it clicked in all the way? Not sure. But as you can see, there's a little. But it works perfectly fine. Volume rocker on the top, we have our microphone. Bottom, we have our headphone jack, microphone, 15-watt charging port, single firing speaker, slim size micro SD card slot, and same exact cameras with a terrible texture. And Galaxy A15 5G, the best enhancements ever to a smartphone. 6.5-inch freaking Super AMOLED 1080p 90Hz display. First ever Super AMOLED screen. And I'm telling you, this thing is nice. It has adaptive eye comfort shield. So True Tone. And this thing is just beautiful. Going to settings here. This 90Hz is not adaptive, unfortunately. It is just a high, so it's going to waste more battery life. But really, really nice. New cameras. 50 megapixel main. 5 megapixel ultra wide and 2 megapixel macro. So we get that ultra wide back. Got rid of the depth sensor. Don't need it. Processing, it's good enough now. And it also is smaller, which I like. It's a 6.5-inch display. And the bezels are so thin that I can do it with an 84.49 screen-to-body ratio. Just immaculate. Now for the hardware. Geekbench really says it all. Some of these are going to be Geekbench 5. Some of these are going to be Geekbench 6. Since half of these phones don't support Geekbench 6. Unfortunately. I don't think I have Geekbench 5 on this guy. Yeah, there's Geekbench 6. And on the newer devices that support Geekbench 6, we're just going to do Geekbench 6. Let me pull up these benchmarks. So these benchmarks just really explain it. And you can see how blue these phones are and how nice this one is. These are just like, it's a night and day difference. So the Galaxy A10e here is a very underpowered phone, but it did come out a long time ago, 2019. But it is so underpowered because it is using an Exynos chip. And if you know about Exynos chips, they are very unreliable. They're made by Samsung, and they're just unreliable chips and slow chips that they put in most of their budget phones. It's a Samsung Exynos 7884 chip. It's just really underpowered. It's an octa-core chip with only 2 gigabytes of RAM. So this guy is going to not run newer titles. It's not going to game. I'm telling you right now, it's not going to game. It's going to barely make it through Facebook. It's probably going to struggle so bad on TikTok. It's just going to probably even struggle playing a YouTube video at 1080p. It's just going to be really slow and really laggy. And the RAM, the 2 gigabytes of RAM is coupled with 32 gigabytes of storage, which is just terrible nowadays. If you thought that was bad, the Galaxy A11 is even worse. 129 over 487. That is a terrible score. My hypothesis right now is do not use a phone that is under 400 in Geekbench. No, it's going to be unusable. This being in the hundreds, and for the multi-core score, I like it to be over 1,000. And that's saying something. This is below 500. Like, what? This guy has a Snapdragon chip, which is another terrible chip to have in a budget phone, and the 400 series, which is another terrible chip to have in a smartphone. It's a 450. Snapdragon 450 chip. Really bad. Again, 2 gigabytes of RAM, 32 gigabytes of storage. Slow as molasses. If you thought that was bad, Galaxy A12 is still not beating the A10e. How? I have no idea. This phone's unusable also. Single core of 165, multi-core of 989. So the multi-core is beating this, but it's just, the single core is so bad. Wow. This guy has a MediaTek chip. It's a MediaTek Helio P35 chip. Same chip found in the Galaxy A03s over there. Yeah, same chip. Not great. Very slow. Very laggy. It's not going to run great. This guy comes with 2 gigabytes of RAM. I thankfully get the 3 gigabyte of RAM model with 32 gigabytes of storage, 3 gigabytes of RAM. You can get this phone 2, 3, or 4 gigabytes of RAM. I got the 3. This is a huge, huge step up in hardware. It is so much better. The single core score of 441, which is still not great, but it's over that 400 threshold, so I'll give it credit. And it's over my multi-core threshold, 1059. It's over 1,000. Just barely, but it just barely makes it over what I call a piece of crap. So, this is, you can do things, it might lag up, but it's way more powerful than the other ones. It has a MediaTek Dimensity 700 chip, coupled with 4 gigabytes of RAM and 64 gigabytes of storage. So, tons of storage on this guy. You can expand it through the micro SD card. Very fast. Galaxy A14 5G here is a very respectable score of 690 single core and 1686 for the multi-core. Very good, very fast. It'll definitely handle some pretty heavy gaming. This guy is coupled with 4 gigabytes of RAM and 64 gigabytes of storage also. And it has the same exact MediaTek Dimensity 700. Not sure why this is scoring higher. Maybe because this is Geekband 6, but still pretty good. The Galaxy A15 5G, very, very respectable score. 700 for a single core, 1727 for the multi-core. Very respectable in 2024. A little on the slower side for a 2024 smartphone, but it's budget. It's $200. Can you complain? It's pretty fast for what it is. It's coupled with 4 gigabytes of RAM, and this time it has 128 gigabytes of storage, so really nice to have all that storage for a cheap phone. And it is micro SD card expandable, so that's really nice. This device has a MediaTek Dimensity 6100 Plus processor. It's not too old. It's actually a fairly new processor. The Dimensity 700s on the 13 and the 14, they are old processors. It's just pretty crappy nowadays. This guy's a pretty new processor. I don't see much difference between the Dimensity 700 and the 6100 Plus, but you can see a little bit of difference. So that's the Geekbench scores and the hardware on each of the devices. Do not buy, do not buy, do not buy. Think about it. You can buy that. Definitely buy that. Wait, all these phones charge at 15 watts except for this, which is 25 watts. So if you want fast charging, this will be the guy. Battery capacities. Battery capacity on the Galaxy A10e is going to be only a 3,000 milliamp hour cell. So it's not going to be lasting you long, but it will charge up pretty fast. Oh, wait, this one charges at 5 watts, I believe. I can check that. Or no, I can't. But I believe it's 5 watts. So never mind, it will not charge fast. Actually, it will charge pretty slow. So, there it is. Slow charging. Galaxy A11 has a 4,000 milliamp hour battery. It's a little bit of a bigger cell. It's a small cell though compared to these newer phones. That's why the phone's so thin, but it does charge at 15 watts, so it'll charge up pretty fast and nicely. Galaxy A13 or A12, has a 5,000 milliamp hour cell. Charging at 15 watts, it will charge very slowly, but it's nice that you get a huge battery in this guy. Same with the Galaxy A13, 15 watt fast charging, 5,000 milliamp hour battery. Also, same with the Galaxy A14, 15 watt fast charging with a 5,000 milliamp hour cell. And the Galaxy A15, 5,000 milliamp hour battery with 25 watt super fast charging. Charge this thing up in no time. That is the charging and battery capacities. Software on each of these bad boys. The Galaxy A10e is on a very old version of software, Android 11. So it's going to be a slow, well, not really slow, but old experience. 2021 for a software, you might think isn't old, but apps will not be supported pretty soon. So It's an old version of software. You don't get the new customization features. It's One UI 3.1. So very old version of One UI. We're on One UI 6.1. Android 12 on the Galaxy A11. Nice upgrade from the Android 11. I didn't think this thing would get 12. I actually think they should have kept it on Android 11, since with One UI there's not much changes from 11 to 12. And it's really slow on 12. So, since this is slower than the A10e, I wanted them to update that to 12. Old version, One UI 4.1. Same thing with the Galaxy A12. We got Android 12 on the last version, which is pretty respectable for this type of phone. Android 12, last version, 2022. Not bad. Funny, on the Galaxy A13, the last version was Android 13. Now, since this and the Galaxy A14 have the same chip and the same amount of RAM and the same storage, they should have upgraded this guy to Android 14, but 13 is what we get, One UI 5.1. Galaxy A14, we're on Android 14 here. We're going to get a couple more years of software, I believe. Very nice, One UI 6.1, get all new features. Same with the Galaxy A15, I believe we're getting 3 or 4 years on this guy, so Android 14 will probably be upgraded to Android 18. So, there's our software versions on all these devices. So, let's go in depth more on the cameras. So, let's look at the camera modes, and then we'll show you some sample shots on all these devices. Camera. Alright, so there's the cameras. As you can see on the Galaxy A10e here, we have two trees, and one tree. So this is 1 and 2 times zoom. This is digital zoom. There's one camera. There's no sensor. So, digital crop, 1x. This guy zooms all the way up to 4 times zoom. Not a good zoom at all. You get HDR. That's the only thing. Nothing else. This is a simple point and shoot camera. Okay. I always use this plant back here. This will be a part of our picture test, but I'm going to take a better picture later. But there's our plant. It actually produces a pretty nice photo for an 8 megapixel, but it's washed out, it's blurry, it doesn't have detail. We get video, 1080p 30, or HD 30. Zoom in video is also 4 times. We get Pro Picture Mode, Panorama, and nothing else. No night mode, no slow motion, no time lapse, nothing. Very limited. Not even portrait. This is a major upgrade on the camera. We get an ultra wide angle camera. Very, very cool. I love that. 1 times zoom, 2 times crop. The zoom can go all the way up to 8 times. That's the only picture mode we have. We do have portrait mode on this guy. No portrait lighting effect, but we can adjust our intensity of it. Very nice. And it is portrait for items. So that's very nice. Let's look at our photo. And this has not the greatest colors. It's not true to life whatsoever. And it's actually more blurry than the Galaxy A10e. I think the Galaxy A10e produces a better shot, as you can see here. It's just a lot clearer for some reason. Even though this is a 13 megapixel camera compared to an 8, it's just, I think the software optimization or whatever is better on the Galaxy A10e. Not a great camera. Video, 1080p 30. We do get some more picture modes here. Pro and Panorama. So, the only thing that we get on here is just portrait and an ultra-wide camera. I actually think the camera's better on the A10e. Galaxy A12, we didn't get much of a camera improvement. We did get a couple things. We get 0.5 still. We get that 1 times zoom. This also produces a blurry picture, but it's not as bad as the A11, as you can see. Kind of blurry. Still think the A10e is better. We don't get a 2 times crop here. We do zoom up to 10 times. So that's a pretty nice improvement here. We can switch over. No, we can't switch to 48 megapixels. Portrait mode here. Video 1080p 30. More. We do get a food mode and a macro mode. So first phone with a macro mode, so we can get nice and close. Get that detail, as you can see. I'm not a big macro kind of guy, but it's nice that we have it. Galaxy A13 does step up the pictures. No ultra-wide, though. 1x, 2x, 4x, and 10x. We do get a 50 megapixel picture mode, which the 50 megapixel mode we're not going to use because most people just use it in the regular 12 megapixel mode. So all these phones will be using the 12 megapixel mode when we're doing our camera test here, but that's nice. Let's go ahead and do the photo test. As you can see, pretty washed out. There's one I did a while ago. Not too bad, but a little washed out. Video, 1080p 30. Portrait, same exact guy. We get all the same modes. Galaxy A14 was a major step up. Way more modes. We get a 50 megapixel mode. 1x, 2x, 4x, 10x. Pictures are much improved with software. Very high-end, it looks like, cameras. It's actually really good with processing, as you can see. It's not true to life, though. This green is way too overexposed. Or overprocessed, I mean. It's really too green. Portrait mode, same deal. Video 1080p 30. On this guy, you're getting a lot more modes. So you get Pro mode, macro, panorama. We get a night mode now. Food mode, we get slow motion and hyperlapse. So we get slow motion, hyperlapse, and night mode. Night mode's a big thing. Galaxy A15 5G. Big improvements on the camera. We get a 5 megapixel ultra wide. Not the best, but it's still pretty nice. 50 megapixel camera modes here. The best out of all of them for the cameras. Not even like overprocessed. This is a perfect process. Not overprocessed, completely natural. Really nice. For the photo quality. We get portrait mode. We do get fun mode on here. 1080p at 30 frames per second video. And same picture mode. So really nice camera on the Galaxy A15 and the Galaxy A14. These other phones, not so much. Let's go outside, and I'm going to do some picture tests. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. We'll see. photos, videos, and more. How is the evolution of these devices? I think it's going to be this guy beating these two. Or maybe even this one. And then these two. CDs the best. But this I'm just very impressed. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate 111, 112 I think we're at. Subscribers, really like that. If you want to hit that subscribe button, that would be very appreciated. Definitely hit that like button there. Have a good one. Hope you enjoyed this huge evolution, because it takes a while to improve it. Thank you guys for watching. I'll like, subscribe. See you in the next one. Peace out.